Hello and welcome to Performance Check. My name is Rob and I wanted to make a very quick video about the hit motion picture Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which I was very happy to watch last night. I've not prepared anything, I've not made any notes. I just wanted to give my honest thoughts about having seen the film from the perspective of a DM, someone who's loved playing D&D for many, many years. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the film. I would not say that this is going to be a review. This is just an honest opinion. And I'd be very happy to hear everyone else's opinion on this film as well. The primary reason I wanted to make this video is to try and convince people who are still on the fence to go and watch. I really enjoyed the film. It was wonderful, and I came out of the theatre beaming from ear to ear. There are a few reasons why. I'm not really going to go into plot that much in this, but if I do think I'm going to stray into anything spoilery, I will say. So I will try and give the best overview that I can before giving details, but I'll definitely shout spoilers before I go any further if you haven't seen it. I want to convince people to go and see this if you're still on the fence, because then they'll make another one. Hollywood only understands one language, and that's money. So if lots of people go and see this, then they're bound to make another one. To be fair, from the critical reception, I think they're probably going to make another one anyway, because by all accounts, it's doing well critically, which is just mad to hear, considering the history of D&D films. I think I have seen, aren't there three? I was trying to think of this earlier. There were D&D films beforehand. There was the one with Jeremy Irons, obviously, around the same time as The Phantom Menace. That was a wild experience. And then there was another one. I think there were three, actually. There was definitely one called Book of Vile Darkness. Anyway, the only reason I'm bringing that up is because as D&D fans, we're not used to quality filmmaking being synonymous with the title Dungeons and Dragons. This film is fantastic. It's very, very funny. Funnier than I thought it was going to be. For once, they didn't spoil all of the jokes in the trailer. I actually made the deliberate effort to only watch one trailer for this, and I kept my expectations middled when I went in as well. So maybe that's why I came out delighted for how good it was. All of the actors are cast incredibly well. The humor is on the level of, say, like a Spider-Man Homecoming, which is of no surprise because I believe some of the writers of Spider-Man Homecoming were on this. I think they did the Lego Batman movie as well, so we're talking about people that are really good at delivering like a dramatic story, but also can pepper it with well-executed humor. The action in this film is wonderful. Genuinely solid action set pieces which have punchlines. And by that I mean the action is delivered in the same way as the dialogue in this film is peppered with accents, where, for example, it's not really a spoiler, there's a moment in a fight between Holga, who is the barbarian character, and she gets tackled by two guardsmen of the city of Neverwinter. She's reaching for all different weapons. They're fighting in an armory, and her hand closes on a bow, which, you know, what's a bow going to do when you're grappled against two combatants? And then the next shot is she just simply puts the string over both of their necks whilst they've got her grappled, draws the bow back and lets it go, and it whacks into both of their faces. Things like that. Well thought out set pieces. The battles themselves had impact. I'm tired of, and this isn't going to be like a Marvel hate thing, because I do enjoy a lot of Marvel, but I've noticed lately that the combat sequences in Marvel are a little lackluster lately. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any weight to people's attacks or anything like that. It doesn't feel like there's any stakes when people do fight. This felt like there were genuine stakes. There is a moment where a powerful combatant fights an assassin, and both of them have magical swords. It looks exactly like you'd imagine, as a D&D fan, like you'd imagine a fight between two magical swords would go. The choreography is fantastic, so definitely worth it for that alone, along with the humour. I'd like to talk very briefly about just the inclusion of stuff that's from the lore of Dungeons and Dragons. So this would probably be the point where if you want to avoid spoilers, you probably want to jump off, because I'll be talking about things that just tickled my brain because I'm seeing things from the Forgotten Realms setting appear in a mainstream feature film, which is kind of mind-blowing. So yeah, if you want to jump out now to avoid spoilers, please do. First of all, the locations. Icewind Dale features heavily at the start of the film. It's great. I know that the place that they're in, technically, they are in. The two protagonists are in a prison at the start, which is just an excellent sequence all on its own. But really, really cool to see Icewind Dale just mentioned. You see it on the map. You watch as they plan their escape from this terrible prison with the help of their friend Jonathan. Which is just wild. Again, I don't really know how much I'm going to stray into actually, like talking about what happens in the film. Again, that's just like their escape from prison is just another example of just a well executed set piece with the lashings of comedy and excellent action. They travel to the likes of the city of Neverwinter, which again is mad. Like, I know this is the way I described it was when I came out of the theatre was a general audience will enjoy this film because it is a well executed film with fantasy elements, great action, and it's funny and entertaining. From someone coming from it from a background of Dungeons and Dragons, you will absolutely be overjoyed with what is included in this film, because there's Neverwinter, there's Icewind Dale, like I explained. There are references to many of the spells that feature heavily in D&D. To list a few: Time Stop, Meteor. They mentioned Spider Climb, Reverse Gravity. There's a Spectral Hand at one point. Like, so they've definitely done their homework. You can tell the people that have written this are well versed in what is available to characters in D&D. The magical items that come into play are really great choices. Some that I recognized from the lore, some of them that I realised, wow, that would be a fantastic addition to include in a game, and I might steal that. You know, that's when I knew this film was onto a winner. When I, as a DM, I'm watching this, thinking, I want to do that in my game. There is a wicked magical item called a Hither and Thither staff, which is used to great effect in one of the many great set pieces of this film. There is a moment where they are trying to infiltrate a moving cart and are trying to use this portal mechanism, this portal staff, to enter it. I'm not going to spoil it, other than to say that they're trying to use the portal staff to get into a moving wagon, and it is unbelievably well done. And there's all sorts of other nods, like there's the Helm of Disjunction, there's Mordenkainen's seal is mentioned, or rather Mordenkainen himself is mentioned because of his seal that locks the vault that the thieves in the title are trying to get access to. The choices of characters in this film is really well done as well. The casting, as I mentioned before, is fantastic. Chris Pine does an incredible job of giving a sense of believability into the world, but also a bit of a nudge and a wink as well when it comes to the madder aspects. He plays a bard, and he plays a bard convincingly. What I was particularly impressed by was that he is by no means the most competent of the group. There is a funny scene where he explains that he is the planner of the group, which leads Holger, the barbarian, to do most of the fighting. There is Doric. This is really testing my memory for what their characters' names are. Again, I've not really prepared for this. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. But there's Doric, who is a tiefling, who is a druid, who you have an entire set piece of demonstrating the power of a druid's wild shape. Like, just thinking about that being in a mainstream film is pretty wild. Pardon the pun. You have Simon, who is a sorcerer played by Justin Smith, who his greatest enemy is his self-esteem, which I found very relatable, and also just delivers an excellent character arc for him. Everything that is set up with these characters is paid off wonderfully. You have the wonderful Hugh Grant playing Forge Fitzwilliam, who, spoilers again, turns out to have betrayed his comrade in arms at the very beginning of the beginning heist of this film. Beautifully played by Hugh Grant, who is the nicest villain you're ever likely to encounter. My particular favourite line of his was, I don't want to watch you die, so I'm going to leave the room. Like, just excellent work. I can't remember his name, but the beautiful man from Bridgerton plays Zenk, a paladin from the lands of Thay, and that's something else that was included that just blew my mind. Zastam, I believe his name is, from the lore, the Red Wizard of Thay, and it turns out the Red Wizards of Thay are the main antagonists of this. I was like, they're talking about the Red Wizards of Thay. Look, I know it's look, member berries. I'm very aware that I am a sucker for that when it comes to something that I love as dearly as Dungeons and Dragons. So the fact that they are simply just mentioning these things, I know, is something that I'm definitely falling victim to. I'm falling victim to nostalgia. I'm aware of that. I also don't care, because not only is it being mentioned as nostalgia, it is a pivotal plot point and something that is crucial to the execution of the film as a whole. If it was just a throwaway line, then I would absolutely accept that it was nostalgia for the sake of it, but all of the things that I've mentioned, the spells, the character archetypes, the locations, the factions, everything that is mentioned pays back to executing a fantastic narrative. I'm not going to go on too much more, but I want to just give a few mentions to the owlbear. Just seeing an owlbear is amazing on the big screen. Worth the ticket price alone to watch the owlbear do its thing. The dialogue back and forth between characters is remarkably well done, because not only does it make logical sense for the characters to be having these conversations whilst they're delving into dungeons and making their way through the dangers that they face in the various set pieces of the film, it is very reminiscent of many conversations that I myself have shared in a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. There is a conversation about how they're going to get across a big gap, and someone immediately puts forth that they're going to tie a rope to an axe because they have 50 feet of rope. You know, it's just things like that I was like, they're having the right conversations. Another example is they attempt to cross that same gap while there is still a bridge there, which is a gnomish device that has to be completed in a certain sequence. Simon the Sorcerer just takes one step and the whole thing collapses, and genuinely one of the funniest moments in the whole thing, because it's so relatable. As someone who has been there in a session and just watched that happen, and you can't help but hate the character that has done this just for a little bit. You're like, oh. I was just packing up, and I suddenly thought of something else that I wanted to mention very, very briefly, and that is there is a surprising and welcome amount of practical and physical effects in this film. Most notably, some of the races featured in the film. You see a Dragonborn, an Aarakocra, and a Tabaxi, and each of them are done with practical effects. The dwarves are done with excellent makeup as well. Just a little nod to just something else I wanted to point out, that real care and effort was made to make these creatures look like they were part of the living and breathing world of the Forgotten Realms. So overall, I'd like to sum up by saying that D&D Honor Among Thieves is a fantastic homage to a hobby that I've loved for a great portion of my life. It didn't feel like I was being talked down to. It felt like it really paid homage to what makes a great D&D campaign, but also doesn't get lost in trying to just bathe you in nostalgia. Like, it actually tells like a competent story. It delivers it with flair, with excellent filmmaking, with great set pieces, with a massive amount of thought put into it. Everything pays off. Everything that gets set up has a satisfying conclusion. If you were running D&D Honor Among Thieves as a D&D campaign, and you executed that, you would be heralded as one of the greatest DMs of all time, and I think that's probably the best compliment I could pay the film. Hope you don't mind me rambling, unprepared, without notes. I just wanted to give my thoughts whilst they were still fresh. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the film, and if you haven't seen it, I would urge you to go because I want them to make a second one. If not for yourself, do it for me here at Performance Check. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you'd like to see more like this, give me a like. If you'd like to see more like it, then give me a subscribe, and I hope that all of your performances are up to standard.